Color mapping is how the file communicates to the laser cutter where to assign different power and speed settings to different parts of the image. Simple color mapping allows us to cut, score, and engrave in a single job. But let's take it up a notch and learn how to use color mapping to engrave at multiple depths and order cuts. In this video, we'll look at 3 ways to use color mapping, starting with the most basic, then moving on to more advanced, so that you can create more elaborate designs and get the most out of each laser cutting job. Before we start, remember most laser cutting files need to be created in RGB color mode, because RGB hex values are used for color mapping, not CMYK. When creating a new document, make sure to choose RGB color mode. If you forget, you can change it in the file by going to File, Color Mode, RGB. We'll start by looking at the most basic color mapping: cut, score, and engrave, the 3 primary operations of the laser cutter. In this image of a row house by Amanda D'Amico, the engraved areas are color-coded RGB black, the score lines RGB red, and the cut lines RGB blue. When we go to the print dialog box to program the settings, we can enter different power and speed settings for each color. In this case, the black fills will engrave with a power of 50 and speed of 80. The red lines will score at a power of 40 and speed of 100, and the blue lines at a power of 100 and speed of 80. A high power and low speed lets you know that I'm cutting something thick. Remember that the only difference between a cut and score is the strength of the laser. A score is a cut that is too weak to go all the way through the material. The second application we'll look at is programming cut and engraving order. The order that the colors are listed in the print dialog box is the order the laser cutter will run them. For example, universal laser cutters use 8 colors. It will engrave black first, then red and green, all the way to orange, before cutting or scoring the strokes in the file from black to orange. Epilog color mapping is similar, but the engraving and cutting order is slightly different. Both Epilog and Universal let you assign the same setting to a fill and stroke of the same color. Trotec offers 16 colors, but makes you choose if a color will cut or engrave. It completes all the engraved areas first before moving on to the cuts. Glowforge is different in that you can choose your own colors and assign different settings to fills and strokes of the same color. The order in which the laser cutter activates each color can be used to our advantage when it comes to programming the cutting and engraving order. For designs like the Celtic knot, it's important that the laser completes the inside cuts before cutting the outside shape. If the laser cuts the outside shape first, the material will drop, putting the laser out of focus. When the beam is out of focus, it may not be strong enough to cut all the way through the material, and the width of the cut will be greater. Now, some laser cutters have a setting that will identify inside cuts and cut them first. But if your laser cutter doesn't have that option, you can do it manually by assigning one color to the inside cuts and another to the outside cuts based on the color order of your machine. Now it's time to go beyond the basics and look at how to use advanced color mapping for engraving at multiple depths. Here we have Amanda's row house again with additional colors. It is color mapped for the black areas to engrave shallow and the red deep, the green lines to score shallow and the blue deeper, and the cyan lines to cut out first and the orange to cut out last. For many laser cutters, this kind of color mapping requires getting out of preset mode and into manual mode. I encourage everyone to work in manual mode because the artistry of laser cutting is found in developing your own settings and not relying on the laser cutter's presets. Let's review. Basic color mapping lets us program the 3 laser cutting operations: cut, score, and engrave in a single job. 2. Color mapping can be used to program the cutting or engraving order. 3. Advanced color mapping allows us to expand the complexity of our designs by engraving and scoring at different depths in a single job. Now that you have a better understanding of color mapping, it's time to start making your laser cutting files.
Before you leave, share something you've learned in the comments.